In this short video, you'll learn how to crochet your very own colorful scrubbies, like these. Making these colorful little scrubbies is easy and rewarding. Scrubbies look super cool and colorful on any sink, and they last forever. When they're old and faded, you can use them for extra scrungy jobs instead of just tossing them out, like scrubbing old pots. Scrubbies are incredibly versatile. You can use them to do things like clean veggies like potatoes, squash, or new carrots, or scrub pots and pans without damaging the surface. You can even use them to debug your windshield. Scrubbies are super easy to make. You're going to need a few supplies like this netting and some crochet hooks, and you're going to need to learn how to do a single crochet stitch. If it's easy to do, you can ask a friend or learn how on a YouTube video. To get started, gather your supplies. You'll need about a half a yard total of netting for each scrubby. More on that in a sec. You'll also need a crochet hook. H, J, or K are all good sizes. Some scissors. Some folks like to use a stitch marker. Safety pin or paper clip will do fine. Grab a ruler. And lastly, you'll need directions. I'll provide a link to these in the space below this video. Now, a quick note about netting. Netting, or tulle, is available in most fabric stores. There are lots of different kinds and colors. For the most effective scrubbers, look for netting that has a wider mesh and a rougher or scratchier texture to it. Avoid nettings that have a waxy or slick feel to them because they don't do a very good job scrubbing gunk off surfaces. Before you start crocheting, you're going to need to cut your netting into 2-inch strips. Lay it on a flat surface with a fold at the top, and then fold it up into a narrow tube. You can pin it if you want to keep it from springing around. I usually don't. And then cut it into 2-inch strips. I like to cut all my strips at once, and I don't worry too much about getting the exact 2-inch measurement, but I've learned that anything less than 2 inches makes for wimpy scrubbies. I like to use a 6-bottle cloth wine holder or a beer 6-pack holder to keep my strips organized by color. For each scrubby, you'll need 7 strips of tulle. I like to use 3 alternating colors for my scrubbies so they look like this. But rainbow scrubbies are fun too. For a tri-colored scrubby, you'll need 3 strips of one color and 2 strips each for the other 2 colors. For example, to make this blue and green scrubby, you'll need 3 blue strips, 2 light green, and 2 dark green. Now comes the actual crocheting, and I'll try to demonstrate that for you. There are 9 steps, one's optional, and as a reminder, there's a link to a PDF of the directions below this video. To get started, first make a slip knot at the end of a strip. This is your color number 1. Put your hook through the slip knot and chain 4. 2, 3, and 4. Now, put your hook through the first stitch. It's kind of tough working with scrubby material sometimes. And do a single crochet stitch. This forms a ring. The ring has a distinct opening in the center of it. Next, put your hook through the center of the ring and do 6 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now you've built a ring of single crochet stitches. Next, work your hook into the outside edge of the first stitch and do 2 single crochet stitches into this stitch. This is often the trickiest stitch to start with. Okay, now find your second stitch on the outer edge and work 2 single crochet stitches into this. Continue working 2 single stitches into each outside stitch until you near the end of your first strip of color. When you near the end of the first strip, tie the second strip, color number 2, to the first with a simple overhand knot. After you've joined the 2 strips, finish up what you have with color number 1. And now you're just going to continue working 2 single stitches. There's 1 and there's 2 into each outside stitch. And that's it. You just, with the second color, continue putting 2 single crochet stitches into each outer stitch until you're done with the second strip. When you're almost at the end of color number 2, tie on the third strip. This is color number 3. Once again, using a simple overhand knot. Finish up with the previous strip, whatever you have left. And now, when you start with strip number 3, you'll start working only 1 single crochet stitch into each outside hole instead of 2. So continue working 1 stitch into each hole for strip number 3. And when you're done with strip number 3, continue tying on new strips and working 1 single crochet into each hole until you've used all 6 strips. By your 6th strip, your scrubby will look something like this. Tie your final or 7th strip on with an overhand knot as before. And finish up your previous strip. For your final strip, continue working 1 single crochet for a couple of holes, and then begin decreasing by crocheting a single crochet stitch into every other hole. In other words, do a single crochet, skip a hole, go to the next hole and do a single crochet in that one. Continue crocheting into every other stitch until you're almost completely closed up the circle, like this. Finish by skipping every other hole. It's a little tricky at the end until you have no more stitches or holes left to go into. And then at that point, just pull your needle through so you have a tail. And give a tug. Use your hook to pull the excess netting through the scrubby, like this, and tear off any extra that you have. Push any extra excess into the center of your scrubby, and voila, it's complete. They're fun to give as hostess gifts. I hope you'll enjoy your scrubby.